Hi. You already know why we're both here, so let's just dive right into it because I don't have time to waste today. We are going to start off with the stats for March. I read 12 books in the month of March. I'm really keeping my pace of reading slowly in the year of 2026 to a T because I swear to God, I have never read this slow in my life, and I've never had this low amount of books in a month of reading consistently since I don't even know when. All right, so 12 books in the month of March. For page number, 8% of the books that I read, which is one book, was less than 300 pages. 83%, which are 10 books that I read, were 300 to 499 pages. And then it does say that 8%, which is one book, is 500 pages and up, but that is not true, because that book that is over 500 pages is a book that I have been reading for 2 months. I did not read the entirety of it all in March, and we will get to that book. My top genres are romance, fantasy, contemporary, classics, and horror. The only reason why classics is a genre in March is because I read 2 books from the Lord of the Rings world, and those are classified as classics, but I would say that those are just straight fantasy. Format, I actually listened to more audiobooks than I did read physically this month, which is totally fine. I'm back in my audiobook era. I am in the mood to listen to audiobooks, especially with work picking up, and now that it is April and Aries season is in full swing and it's my birthday month, I have things to do. She's booked and busy. She doesn't have as much time to sit down and read a book. No, she doesn't. She's out doing things. So I will be listening to more audiobooks from here on out. 25% of the books I read were digital through my ebook. 42% of the books that I read were listened through by audiobook. 33% were print. My average star rating for March is a 4.02, which is an incredible average. Even though I'm reading less, I'm reading better books and I'm having a better time with reading. I'm reading more enjoyable books. This is a month where I did find a 5-star. For some reason, 2026 has just not been the year of 5 stars. Compared to the last couple of years, not many life-changing books in 2026. But that's okay, because that means that there is still opportunity for me to find a life-changing book for the rest of the year. So that wraps up the stats for March. Now let's dive into the books that I read. I do have to preface by saying that I mentioned this in my spring bookish vlog, which I will link below if you haven't watched it. I am in a romance mood. When I'm in one of those moods, I want to lean into it because they happen far and few between now, because the romance genre in the past year has just, she's been testing me. She's been testing me. Yes, she has. I think it might be because I've read a lot of contemporary romances, rom-coms that are traditionally published that have just not really done it for me. They really have not. I kind of went back to my roots this month and read more indie and unknown romances, and I'm having a fucking blast, you guys. Like, I went back to my roots reading more indie romances. That being said, the first book that I read in March is Bombshell by Sarah MacLean. This is a historical romance. I listened to the audiobook of this. This has been on my TBR for the longest time because this is one of the historical romances that is always listed in child-free by choice romance book lists. And you guys know that's my personality at this point. This is an author that is not indie. She's definitely traditionally published, but I don't see her books often in bookstores, and I think that might be because a lot of historical romances like this, besides this specific special edition of the book, a lot of them are mass market paperbacks. You don't see a lot of those in bookstores anymore. My God, this is a fucking long ass intro to this goddamn book. Okay, this is a historical romance book. Is the first book in a series called the Hell's Bells series, and it's actually very similar to a series that I read by Grace Calloway, but very similar in that you have sort of this Charlie's Angels secret society of badass women that takes place in the Regency era. Iconic. Truly iconic. In this book, we follow the main character, Cecily, and she is definitely a more, I would say, controversial character of her time because she is, I believe, in her 30s. She is unmarried She doesn't have kids. She doesn't want kids. And she comes from wealth. So she is considered a very rich lady. And she's just living her life having a good time. And that in this era is definitely revolutionary because people are getting married, having kids, and women in this society get married so that they can have a financial secure future. She doesn't need that. She doesn't need a man for that, babe. She has her own financial secure future on her own. Yes, she does. Her nickname in this is Sexily because she's known for wearing very provocative outfits and flirting with men. She kind of lets the rumors and her reputation precede her. When they think of her that way, and someone that isn't really capable of behind the scenes running schemes and spying and observing and doing all these things to help other women. So she kind of uses her privilege and the reputation that she has to use as a mask for the undercover work that she's actually doing. Iconic. We love to see it. She has a romance with Caleb, who actually is her older sister's best friend, and her older sister and Caleb run a business together, and so they are always in each other's orbit because of that. Because Cecily sort of joins this secret society of the Hells Bells, her sisters are concerned because they can see that she is acting very differently. She's going out later at night. She's finding herself in very controversial situations. They can tell that something's different about her. And so her older sister asks Caleb to keep an eye out for her, and she wants Caleb to figure out what the hell Cecily is up to. Then they kind of get entangled in all of these crazy fun situations. I really enjoyed it because, like I said, Cecily was such a fantastic female main character for this time period, and she makes it known to Caleb that you're not gonna hold me back. One thing about me, a man is not holding me back from the things that I want to do in my life, and especially you. Now, Caleb, I will say, is sort of the typical overprotective, overbearing alpha male of this time period. I can't really blame him because that's just like how men in that society were. He really couldn't comprehend the fact that she was 100% capable of taking care of herself. He did piss me off a few times, but towards the end, he understood that he really has to let her live her own life. Really enjoyed this. Again, extra bonus points for a Child Free by Choice couple. Loved it, had a really good time, and oh my god, did I even tell you guys what I fucking rated this? No, I did not, did I? I rated this 3.5 stars. I had a really great time, enjoyed it. The audiobook is fantastic. So yeah, that is Bombshell. The next book that I read in March was Lucy on the Wild Side by Carrie Rhea, and I listened to the audiobook of this. And this one was fun because it's very different than any other romance that I've read. You are following our main character, Lucy, who's a zookeeper in a zoo in, I believe, Ohio. And she's a junior zookeeper and working her way up to be a senior zookeeper. And the reason why this was very fun for me is because I have never in my life, girl, read any book where the main character was a zookeeper. And to get the behind the scenes action of what it takes to become a zookeeper, girl, couldn't be me. It really couldn't be me. It really couldn't be me. But all my respect and appreciation for zookeepers, because y'all are really doing the Lord's work. You really are, because the things that you have to go through to help upkeep and maintain the health and prosperity of these animals, amazing. And I love animals, I love wildlife, and I also loved Lucy's revered respect for nature and how much she fought for wildlife. She specifically is a zookeeper for the gorillas, and she is very passionate about gorillas. She idolizes this woman. Her name, I think in the book, is Dr. Kimball, I want to say, and she's basically Jane Goodall. It just so happens that Dr. Kimball's son, Kai, has a reality TV show very similar to Steve Irwin. Now, there is going to be a new baby gorilla that is getting transferred to Lucy's zoo, and Kai's network chooses Lucy's zoo to film the entire experience of that transition and having Lucy in the forefront as sort of the star zookeeper in this show, and Kai is going to be there along for the ride. And of course it is a romance between the two of them. I definitely did not like Kai in the beginning because he was a straight up asshole to Lucy, and Lucy is so passionate about what she does, and she's so sweet, and she just wants the best for these gorillas, and she hates being in front of the camera. Her mom was an actress on a very popular soap opera when she was growing up, and her mom tried to make her into a kid actor, and Lucy just hated being in front of the camera and that was just not her personality. And so she does not like being in front of the camera at all. And Kai sort of forces her to do it in his way of getting her out of her comfort zone. I didn't like that. And there were moments where he would say things and I would just be like, excuse me? What was that? So I did hate him for a majority of this book. I sure did. But obviously it was like a facade and he was like secretly in love with her and blah, 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 blah. You get the gist. I loved in this book specifically that Lucy had her own individual story and she had things going on outside of the romance. Lately, I feel like the romances that are being published now, everything in these characters' lives is about the other person or the romance. They have absolutely no life, no personality, no ambitions, no goals outside of that romance. And I loved that in this, Lucy had a goal. She wanted to be a senior zookeeper. And there were times where weeks would go on in this book and she wouldn't even interact or even see Kai. Thank you. Thank you. She had her own goals that she wanted to work towards. She had her own family trauma that she was unpacking and all of these things going on in her life that had nothing to do with Kai. And we love to fucking see it. We really do. We really do. Do I feel like they last after this? No. I do not feel like this is a couple that lasts after an epilogue. I do feel like Lucy does not need a man, and especially if that man is Kai, no. I still really enjoyed this, more for Lucy than anything. What did I am not going into these telling you guys my ratings. I'm so sorry. I also rated this one 3.5 stars, had a good time with it. The audiobook was great, and that was Lucy on the Wild Side. All right. The next book that I finished in March, and I'm saying I finished it in March because I didn't read this entire book in March. Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. Now, this is the book where I was saying that it took me 2 months to finish. Bitch, I started this on January 1st. I did not finish it until, when was it? March 7th. So it literally took me 2 months to read. And not because I was having a bad time with it or that it's a bad book, but this, please look at this. This bitch is dense, okay? She's dense. Yes, she is. This is the third book in the Stormlight Archives. And I'm gonna say it right here, right now. I'm taking a break, guys. I am taking a break. I will continue this series for sure sometime down the road, but I'm taking a break from it for now. Because this was incredibly long, super dense, and do I feel like it could have been edited down? Yeah, I for sure did. Yeah. I feel that there were certain moments and subplots that didn't need as much time as it got. And there was a lot going on. There was a lot going on. And, you know, shout out to Brandon Sanderson for creating a complicated but still really rich world with complex characters. Each character has such an insane backstory, but also what is going on in the present and what is going to happen in the future. Also crazy story. I rated it 4 stars only because, yeah, there was some things that I was just like, oh my God, please, when is this going to end? And because I feel that way after reading this, I'm not going to continue until I'm in the mood to get back into this world and back with these characters, because I just know if I force myself to continue right now, I'm going to hate Rhythm of War, which is the next book. I'm going to hate read it. And I don't want to do that because this is such a, like I said, such a rich world and incredible characters. And I don't want to hate read any part of the series. This was truly a commitment. I'm proud of myself for finishing it. I will continue with the Stormlight Archives, but it just, she's taking a little bit of a break. But that is Oathbringer. The next book I read in March is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. And this is in my attempt to read The Lord of the Rings for the first time. Yes, this is my first foray into Middle-earth. And I'm doing a whole reading vlog on it, and it's still ongoing because I have not finished the series yet. And I'm glad I read this before I started the actual Lord of the Rings trilogy, because it definitely set the foundation for the rest of the trilogy, and it gave a lot of backstory into how that story begins. I'm not going to go into too much depth into what this book is about, because I feel like if you haven't at least read this book, you've already watched the movies, and I have not yet. I rated this 3.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I loved Bilbo Baggins and his story, Gandalf the wizard, and the discovery of the ring that is so important in this world. I love the way that the story is told. It's almost as if the narrator is telling you a bedtime story, and I really enjoy that. I will say I listened to the audiobook while I read this physically, and I listened to the version that Andy Serkis narrates. And first of all, fantastic performance by Andy Serkis. Obsessed with him. The one thing that I do have to say about this and also the first book, which I'm just gonna tell you right now, because I'm not gonna skip to it, because I read this book in March as well, and I rated this 3.5. I rated this 4 stars. I did not realize that there was going to be an excessive amount of singing in it. There are songs, babe, in this. Yeah, not even they're like essays in song form. Andy Serkis, God bless the man. He is singing his fucking life off. He is truly giving a Grammy award-winning performance in these audiobooks, because the man is singing, babe, singing. And to me, it almost seems excessive to have that amount of singing in these books, because the author goes into great detail about exactly what that song that he just sang was about immediately after the song is done. What's the point of it? Not really sure. But that is my one gripe with this, is that I could do without all the fucking singing. I really could. I really enjoyed this one more than The Hobbit, just because we got more action and more characters in this book. In The Hobbit, we really only followed Bilbo and some of the dwarves that joined him on the journey, but here we have Frodo, his friend Sam, Pippin, Merry, and Gandalf. Then we have all the different dwarves and all the other elves that are also involved in this, and then you get more action with the big bad, the Dark Lord, and his little minions chasing them through all of the kingdoms. And it's just, there's just more in this. There's more substantial. I will say that the middle part, where there is a singular council meeting, took about 20% of the book. It was like 50 to 60 pages of just this one meeting. But I understand that it was necessary, because that's when all of the characters from different parts of this world come together and sort of share their story of how the rings and this dark magic is now affecting their parts of the kingdom. And at the end of this, things started heating up, and I truly was along for the journey. Action is actioning at the end of this book, and I'm excited because I'm now reading the second book, and even more things are happening, and I'm really, really enjoying it. 4 stars for the first book of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Fellowship of the Ring. Really enjoyed it. I'm having a good time with this. Again, it's giving me old school fantasy vibes, and I'm here for it. Absolutely loving it. The next book that I read in March is a book called Let's Get Textual by Tegan Hunter. This is another book that's part of my going back to my indie romance roots, and it's been backlisted on my TBR for the longest time. And the thing is, I have so many of these books downloaded on my Kindle and my Audible and my Libby and Hoopla that I have downloaded and hoarded over the years, that at this point I don't even remember why I initially wanted to read them. I just know that they're on my lists and they're on my apps. And again, I can't remember initially why I even wanted to read this, especially because it's a new adult, and I don't really read new adult books anymore. I don't particularly reach for books set in college or new adult settings anymore, because I am so far removed from that age that even that seems too young for me. But I actually had a really fun time with this, surprisingly. So you're following our main character, Delia. She just broke up with her boyfriend, but they end really amicably and in a way that they're still friends. They love each other, but they're not in love with each other anymore. And throughout the books, her and her ex-boyfriend are still in contact, and he's still a really good friend to her. And I really appreciated that about this book, because you hardly see healthy relationships with exes in books. They're always toxic, and that's understandable, but I love that this portrayed a healthy friendship between exes. Anyway, Delia gets a text from a random number, and she doesn't know who it is, and the guy that texts her is Zach, and he is, I think he's like 23 or 24, and Delia's 21, so she's technically still in college, and he's an adult and has a career. But it's not this weird age gap at all, because they're only a couple years apart. I don't think it's weird that he's out of college and she's still in college, because the age gap is not big or alarming at all. And this was actually really cute because, you know, they don't know who each other is. They start texting and they start to learn more about each other, and they end up texting a lot, and then they start phone calls, but they've never met at all. This is a book where it's a small world, so they actually do run in similar circles and they know mutual people. And so it really isn't out of the ordinary that they would eventually cross paths, but I thought this was really sweet. The way that they treated each other was so cute. It definitely was like the swoony puppy love of college romances that you get. The banter going back and forth had me giggling and kicking my feet. And I also really love the relationship between Zach and his family and how Delia kind of gets absorbed into his family, and that was really a sweet and fun dynamic to read about. And this book was funny. Certain moments and things that the characters would say had me actually cackling out loud, which hard to do for me in books. Like I said, I don't really go for or reach for college romances or new adult romances anymore, but this one was cute. I'm actually kind of glad that I went into it blind and not remembering why I wanted to read it, because had I known that it was a college romance beforehand, I probably would not have picked this up, but I enjoyed my time with it and I don't regret picking it up. Yeah, this was an unexpected surprise. I enjoyed it. I rated it 3.75 stars and I had a good time with it. So that's Let's Get Textual. The next book I read, I actually read it on my ebook, but I had to get a physical copy because I fell in love with this book. And that is The Heat of Us by Eliana Lee. This is an Omegaverse romance book. I rated this 4.5 stars. Why did this Omegaverse have me tearing up at 2 in the morning? First things first, the main character, her name is Hazel. She's an Omega Fans creator. Instead of OnlyFans, it's Omega Fans. Iconic. She is Asian American, and I love this because it actually had really good representation and a lot of emotional depth of being raised by very religious, strict parents. There was a lot of trauma that came from that, and her relationship with her parents is very strained because of it. And she is an Omega Fans creator, 1, because she makes a lot of money from it, 2, she's good at it, and 3, also I think kind of to spite her parents. There's that sort of built-in rebel in her to, you know, go against everything that her parents ever taught her and to really make her own way. I truly was not expecting that sort of emotional depth in an Omegaverse book. I was not expecting that, but ate that up, really enjoyed that. And of course, I mean, she has 3 men swooning over her. Love to see it. There's an alpha who is also an Omegaverse creator, and she ends up partnering with him to make content for both of their pages. Then there's a beta who is the security guard in her apartment building. And then the third is another alpha who is her best friend's brother. And the way that they all are kind of connected, crazy. And it's shit that you would only find in an Omegaverse. And I ate this up. I ate this up. I feel like each character had their own individual story too, which, as you've seen from other books, I love it when the characters in the book, their lives do not revolve solely around the romance. The spicy scenes, loved, hot, ate that shit up. And the best part about all of this is that in the end, they decide that kids are not for them. So yes to a child-free Omegaverse pack. We love to see it. We really do. So yeah, I really highly enjoy this. If you're looking for a new Omegaverse to dive into, I highly recommend this, The Heat of Us. All right, the next book that I read was an arc for Japanese Gothic by Kylie Lee Baker. This was one of my most anticipated releases of the year. I'm so grateful to NetGalley, the publisher, for giving me a copy. Fucking iconic. I did have high expectations and high hopes, considering that I absolutely loved Bat Eater by Kylie Lee Baker. The premise of this sounded absolutely incredible. You have 2 different timelines following 2 characters whose stories converge into one. In the present day, you have Lee Turner, who's in college, but he flees to Japan where his dad and his dad's girlfriend are living in. They got a house in rural Japan, very isolated, and he flees and stays there because he may or may not have killed his college roommate. And the thing is with Lee is he's dealing with a lot of grief after losing his mom. His mom disappeared when he was a kid and he never really got any closure because of it. And yeah, he's a little bit reliant on drugs, and not like hard drugs. He's reliant on over-the-counter medicine like Benadryl and like Ambien, because it makes him very lucid, and he likes that state of sort of being intoxicated but sort of conscious, kind of that halfway point where you're sort of in reality but also in a lucid state. So that's how he's kind of getting through life right now. Because of that, he doesn't really remember where he hid his college roommate's body. He doesn't know what's going on with that, right? So that's present day. Then we follow in the past in 1877 in that same house, Sen, who is a young samurai. She is the daughter of a samurai. This is a time where all of the samurais have been basically executed by the Imperial Army. I loved getting all the historic facts and sort of a real life look at what life was like for samurais back in that time, even though this was sort of towards the end of the samurai era. It's more than just legacy and tradition and honor. It's like life or death. If you live your life as a samurai, you die as a samurai. It's very brutal, it's very cutthroat, and it's actually a dishonor for, you know, a samurai to leave a battle unless they are dead or killed. And when her father comes back, he doesn't come back as the same person. She doesn't think that like that's her dad, because her dad would never, a true samurai would never come back from a battle. She would do anything to make her father proud. She would do anything to live up to the samurai that her father is. And she knows that her father coming back is a bad omen, and that can only mean that the Imperial Army is going to also come to their home, because they know that he's still alive. It's only a matter of time until her and her whole family get slaughtered by the Imperial Army. The house sort of serves as a portal between Lee and Sen's timeline, and they end up meeting each other. That's all I'm gonna say. This story feels like an acid trip because you have no idea what reality is. You don't know what is past. You don't know what is present. You don't know if what the characters are going through is actually happening to them or if it's in a dream. And it's a very trippy. I will say that Kylie Lee Baker writes very gothic and dark and lucid atmospheres so perfectly. The atmosphere in this book was everything to me. I absolutely loved this like world that she created. You deal with ghosts and spirits, and it was time bending, and it's just a very unique story and a unique way of telling a story. So for that, I really enjoyed it. Towards the end, truly, I had no idea what the fuck was going on, honestly. But I was at the edge of my seat the entire time, wanting to know what was going to happen to these characters, because, I mean, they had no idea what was going on. I had no idea what was going on, and we were all just trying to figure it out together. This book was weird. It'll make you think. It'll make you feel unsettled. It'll give you a really dark, creepy atmosphere. I rated it 3.75 stars. I really enjoyed my time with it. And yeah, when it comes out, I highly recommend you guys all read it. That is Japanese Gothic. All right, next, I'm not going to spend too much time with this, but I really just wanted a feel-good book that I knew was going to make me happy, I was going to have fun with, and that was very lighthearted, that I didn't really need to think too deeply of. And whenever I'm in that mood, I want to do a reread, because I already know I'm going to enjoy that book. And so I reread Bet Me by Jennifer Crusie. I love Jennifer Crusie's humor. She writes such dry, sarcastic humor that always just makes me laugh. And I just wanted a book where I knew what I was going to get and I had a good time with it. I actually annotated it this time. This is one of my favorite Child Free by Choice romance books. This was written in the early 2000s, so upon reread, I realized how many outdated and offensive jokes there truly are in here. And talk about a time portal. This really transported me back in a time where in the early 2000s, everyone's goal was to be skinny. A lot of body dysmorphia, a lot of eating disorder. Like, wow, I did not even comprehend that the first time I read it, but the second time I read it, it was very in your face. One of those books that is definitely of its time, but I still really enjoyed it, had a good time with it. And yeah, that's all I have to say about this book. That's Bet Me. Okay, the next book I read, guys, Rewind It Back by Liz Tomforty. This is the last book in the Windy City series, and I was emotional. I got emotional. This one got me. This one, I was got. The end of an era, truly. I started reading this series when it was still on Kindle, when it was indie published. It's been a journey with this series. I have loved it for years. These characters have had my heart from book one. I'm so sad that it's over and I'll have to say goodbye to these characters, but I have cherished my time with them. This last book is Rio's book, his second chance, Always Been You romance with Hallie, his teenage love, his first love. They reunite back together in present day. She's an aspiring interior designer. She's an intern at this very prestigious interior design firm, and she gets assigned to decorate and fix up Rio's house. And they happen to live next door to each other. Rio is a hockey player, babes. Yes, he is. This is the last book in the series, so it's kind of hard to tell you, you know, what it's about, because at this point, if you're not this deep in the series, I can't really tell you much. But this is a character that we've been waiting for since his first appearance in, I think, the first or second book. And then to also see the conclusion of all the other couples and their friendship group in this. Bitch. Yeah, this got me. This really did get me. I rated it 4.5 stars. What a great way to end the series, to end the era. I will say Liz Tomforty writes long books, and she's admitted that she loves to write. She loves writing longer romances, and I don't ever think that it's that serious. I don't ever feel like a romance needs to be more than 300 pages. But for Liz Tomforty, she's an exception. I will read it, because even though they are long, she knows how to write a romance. Enjoyed it. So happy that I finally read this. I've been putting this off for a really long time. I finally read it and I loved it. And yeah, so that is Rewind It Back. The next book that I read in March, you guys, wow. I read The Arc of Molka by Monica Kim. Again, thank you to NetGalley, the publisher. This is another one of my most anticipated releases of the year. And you guys, please watch my spring bookish vlog, because I read this entire book in one day and I documented all of it in that vlog. This book gagged. So this book takes place in Korea, and Molka is actually a Korean term for spy cameras secretly and illegally installed, often to capture voyeuristic images and videos. And this is the entire theme of the book. You follow a couple main characters, the first being Dae, and she ends up dating this really rich man. He is the heir to a global entertainment media business in Korea. He's one of those typical rich sons that you see in K-dramas all the time. And he is, unbeknownst to her, playing her. Yeah, because she doesn't come from money. She works at, she has an office job. She lives a regular, schmegular life. And then a scandal breaks out. And it seems as if someone recorded her and her boyfriend Hyuk-jun having sex. The video went viral. So there's that scandal that she's dealing with, and it's very interesting to see the way that society sort of treats the men and the women in these situations, and how, you know, because he comes from a rich family and he has this huge prestigious reputation, his privacy was violated, and, you know, he's a victim, but Dae is a slut. Hyuk-jun is rich enough to flee the country, go to America, and not have to deal with this scandal, whereas Dae kind of just has to live through it. And like I said, she works at this office job, and at the same time that this is all happening, there is a co-worker that she has in this office, in this company, and he works for the IT company. His name is Jun-young, and he actually is one of the biggest perverts I've ever met in my life, because he has secretly installed cameras in the women's restrooms, and at his desk at work, on company diamond time, he is secretly watching these women go to use the restroom in their most vulnerable state. Men are sick, and their paths meet because she needs help with something that happened to her computer or her laptop at work, and he becomes obsessed with her. A lot of things happen, and in the end, this becomes a story with female rage, vengeance, revenge, women in male-dominated fields, justice is served, Dae goes on a spiral. Yeah. I was here for it. Gagged. The thing about Monica Kim is, if you haven't read her first book, The Eyes Are the Best Part, you won't know that her characters, she likes to write them in a way where you will never guess their next move. You really won't. And she knows how to write characters that make you feel icky, characters that you absolutely fucking hate, but characters that still, like, you know these characters. You know who they are. You've either come across them, or you've heard stories of them, or you've been a victim of them. Like, she knows how to write these characters that just, they feel real and raw. Even though none of them are perfect and none of them are, you know, inherently good, there is still justice to be served. There is still vengeance to be had. There are still moves to make. There is still action to take. Ate this up. This was my only 5-star of March. Loved this book so much. Again, I read it in one day. I could not stop reading it. I wanted to continue on into what was going to happen to these characters. Babe, wow. When I tell you my jaw was on the floor, you'll see it in that video. My jaw was on the floor. Yeah. When this comes out, I need every single one of you to read it. I will for sure be picking this up the second that it drops. Yeah, that was Molka. We have made it to the end. The last book that I have for you that I read in March was The Poet Empress by Shen Tao. I've seen people say that this was marketed or advertised as a romantasy. I never saw that advertising. I never saw that it was pitched as a romantasy. I always just saw it as a fantasy with female rage in it. That's all I knew about this book going in. And if you thought or saw that this book was a romantasy, put that out of your mind right now, babe. Get rid of those thoughts and feelings, because this couldn't be further from a romantasy. Honestly, this goes in a completely different opposite direction from a romantasy, okay? This is not romantasy. What? There isn't even a romance in this. Let me just tell you that right now. And thank God that not only is it not a romantasy, there's no romance, and also it's a standalone. This is what I need. I need more of this, okay? Our main character, Wei Yin, lives in a desolate village, and every other village, anywhere outside of the main palace, main kingdom, there's famine, all right? They are struggling for food, struggling for money. They are poor. They're living in poverty. She would do anything to help her family, because at this point she's had 5 siblings die because of famine. She's sick of it. She's done with it. She's willing to do anything to help and save her family, and that includes being the concubine to the heir of the Azalian throne. And this man, this heir, horrifying, vile, evil, tortures people for fun. And this world is really interesting because all of the magic is done through poetry, and the way that a certain character or person will write will bring upon that sort of magic. And the heir that Wei Yin is a concubine for has that magic. He can write certain things in the air, and his sigil magic will bring out the ability to control knives and blades and all these things. He's very powerful. Everyone fears him because he's very spontaneous, and he actually is the second born son. He wasn't supposed to be the heir to the throne. It was supposed to be the firstborn son, but because his magic is more powerful, the dying king ends up choosing him to be the heir. Wei Yin is trying to survive the torture from this man. She is trying to survive in a court that hates her. All of these other concubines and these women that come from very rich, powerful families all hate her and are trying to kill her, because they're like, why did the village girl who is poor and comes from nothing get chosen as the main concubine, could potentially be the empress to this prince one day out of all of us? She doesn't have anyone in her corner, basically. But she is so resilient, and she really fights for herself in silence. Even though she doesn't have any physical abilities or, comes from money, she still has her brain, and she's using her brain, babe. She wants to gain magic, so she secretly has the scribe that is assigned to her teach her how to read and write, so that she herself can gain magic and potentially kill this prince, who is the reason why there's so much famine and the reason why there's so many bad things going on in this world. There are all these seemingly evil, bad characters, but you sort of get their backstory and their villain origin story, and how they became the dark and evil person that they are now. You can't help but feel empathy for a lot of them, because what happened in their past, truly horrific. I also too, had I gone through anything that these characters have gone through, would become a villain myself, babe. And so you really follow Wei Yin sort of unraveling all of these secrets and how the kingdom became what it is, how these very evil characters became who they are. And through it all, one thing I will say about Wei Yin as a main character, she stands 10 toes down on business. Her goals and her ambition and her strive to fight for her family do not waver. When you think they're going to, just when you think she's starting to feel soft and gain, a heart or sympathy for these characters, no, babe. When I tell you, I had no idea where this was gonna go. I was expecting Wei Yin to make one move. Babe, she went the complete opposite direction. What she did towards the end, the events that transpired in the last 30% of this book. Gagged, gooped, gathered. Just a story of resilience, survival. Ugh. I ate this up. I gave this 4 stars. This was so fantastic. I need more standalone fantasy books like this. Shantao, really doing the damn thing, babe. Really doing the damn thing. Really enjoy this. I highly recommend you guys read this. Do not at all go in thinking this is a romantasy or that there will be a romance in general. Because this is about Wei Yin, babe. This is her survival story. This was iconic, super unique. Really loved this. Enjoyed it. Absolutely gagged me. That is The Poet Empress. Okay, well, those are all the books that I read in March. Let me know what you guys have read, or if you read any of the same books I did, or if any of these books are now on your radar, let me know. I'd love to hear about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!